God. It looks like the army.
Oh, that's gross.
Thelma and Louise is one of the most groundbreaking action dramas ever made, and today we're diving into 20 weird facts you didn't know about this iconic film. Fact 1. The story of Thelma and Louise started with Callie Curry, a first-time screenwriter who had never written a movie before. Working in the world of rock music videos, she came up with a tale about two women who refused to play victims. Her inspiration came from a terrifying personal moment, being mugged in a parking lot and imagining how things might have gone differently if she'd been armed. That anger translated into Louise's shocking act of self-defense in the film. Curry wrote the script with no regard for Hollywood rules, creating something raw and unfiltered. Against all odds, the unknown writer not only got her script made, but also won the Academy Award for Best Original Screenplay, proving that sometimes the boldest ideas come from outsiders. Fact 2. Once the script began circulating, nearly every major actress in Hollywood wanted to be part of it. At one point, Jodie Foster and Michelle Pfeiffer were signed on to star, but both left due to scheduling conflicts. Julia Roberts, Holly Hunter, Frances McDormand, Kathleen Turner, Meg Ryan, and even Cher were all considered. The demand was so intense because strong female-driven action roles were almost non-existent in Hollywood at the time. Pfeiffer later admitted she regretted walking away and even avoided watching the movie because it was too painful to see what she had missed. This frenzy of interest showed just how unique and groundbreaking the script was for its time and how rare such roles were for women in the industry. Fact 3. Meryl Streep and Goldie Hawn even pitched themselves as a package deal to star in the movie. The two actresses were close friends and looking for a project to do together, so they met with studio head Alan Ladd Jr. and made their case. Ridley Scott liked the concept and thought Streep could make a great Louise, but Streep had one major objection. She wanted the story to end with one woman surviving, not both dying. That went against the writer's vision, which was all about solidarity. The studio also wasn't convinced Hawn was the right fit for Thelma. The idea fizzled, and the pair instead went on to co-star in Death Becomes Her a year later. Still, it's fascinating to imagine how different the film might have been with those two icons at the wheel. Fact 4. Ridley Scott wasn't supposed to direct Thelma and Louise at all. Initially, he signed on only as a producer and looked for other directors. Bob Rafelson, Richard Donner, and Kevin Reynolds were all approached, but each turned it down. After so many rejections, Scott decided to take the director's chair himself. Known for Alien and Blade Runner, Scott was thought of as a director of dark, male-centered science fiction. Few believed he could handle a female-led road movie, but his sense of scale and ability to create striking visuals gave the story a larger-than-life feel. He ended up earning an Oscar nomination for Best Director. What started as Plan B became one of the defining films of his career, showing his versatility as a filmmaker. Fact 5. Gina Davis lobbied for the role of Louise with relentless determination. For more than a year, her agent called Ridley Scott's office every week trying to get her in. Davis was so eager that she even signed a contract agreeing to play either role, Thelma or Louise, whichever was available. But when Susan Sarandon entered the picture, it became immediately obvious to everyone that Sarandon was perfect for Louise. Davis recognized it herself and pivoted to play Thelma instead. The combination of Sarandon's commanding presence and Davis's wide-eyed vulnerability created an on-screen chemistry that defined the film. Davis's persistence paid off, but in a way she hadn't initially expected. The role of Thelma became one of her most memorable performances.
Jesus! God damn it, Homer! Christ, I gotta get to work. Need this bullshit in the morning.
Fact 6. Christopher McDonald won the role of Darryl, Thelma's obnoxious husband, through sheer dedication and theatrics. Determined to stand out, he flew himself to Arkansas to study how Southern men carried themselves. Then he showed up to his audition wearing a tacky polyester suit and a flashy gold chain, looking like a sleazy salesman. Ridley Scott loved it and cast him immediately. McDonald even gained over 30 pounds to perfect the character's unappealing look. In a twist of fate, McDonald and Gina Davis had actually been engaged in real life years earlier, before she left him for Jeff Goldblum. Playing her controlling husband on screen gave McDonald a strange sense of closure, making the performance both personal and cathartic.
Okay.
Don't do it, Homer.
Oh. Come on. Oh, you're too weak. Come on, here.
All right.
You're
Fact 7. Casting J.D., the drifter played by Brad Pitt, was a saga in itself. Originally, the role was given to Billy Baldwin, but when he dropped out to star in Backdraft, the part opened up. Robert Downey Jr. was considered but dismissed for being too short next to Gina Davis. George Clooney auditioned 5 times, desperate to land the role, but he kept getting turned down. Brad Pitt, then a complete unknown, came back for another audition. During his chemistry read with Davis, she was so distracted by his looks that she forgot her lines. When the producers debated who to choose, Davis ended the discussion with one line: "The blonde one, duh." That moment launched Pitt's career, turning him into an overnight star. Fact 8. George Clooney took losing the role of J.D. harder than most people realize. A T at the time, Clooney was still doing forgettable television roles and hadn't broken into film. After auditioning 5 times and being passed over for Pitt, he admitted he refused to watch Thelma and Louise for years. It was too painful to see the role that could have changed his life. When he finally did watch it, he admitted Pitt was perfect for the part and even joked that he probably would have messed it up. It's surreal to think about how differently things might have turned out for both Clooney and Pitt if casting had gone another way.
Are you a criminal? No, not no more, Thelma. Let's see. Besides busting pro, I haven't done one wrong thing.
Fact 9. Gina Davis nearly refused to film her love scene with Pitt and asked for a body double. She was nervous about shooting an intimate scene and wanted someone else to do the close-up work. Ridley Scott arranged for potential doubles, including models from Playboy and Penthouse. But when Davis saw them, she suddenly changed her mind. She decided she didn't want anyone else taking her place and told Scott to send them home. Davis ended up filming the scene herself, creating one of the most memorable moments of the movie and giving Pitt the platform that cemented his star power.
Break me, make me a man.
Watch your head. Careful.
Come on, my head's fine.
Who are you anyway?
Fact 10. Pitt only earned $6,000 for his role as J.D. That was his entire paycheck for the movie. For comparison, by the mid-1990s, just a few years later, he was earning $10 million per film. At the time, $6,000 was barely enough to cover a few months' rent in Los Angeles. Yet this role introduced him to the world and turned him into one of the most bankable stars in Hollywood. Looking back, it's one of the biggest bargains a studio ever made, considering the role catapulted Pitt from obscurity into international fame almost overnight.
Jeez, Louise, that wasn't very nice.
Can't you tell when somebody's hitting on you?
Oh, so what if he was?
Fact 11. The bar scene where Thelma drinks tequila and dances with JD had some authentic energy behind it. Gina Davis and Susan Sarandon asked the props department for real alcohol instead of watered-down substitutes. They argued it would make their performances feel more believable. The two actresses actually downed shots of tequila while filming, and between takes, they laughed about being tipsy on set. Michael Madsen later revealed that he and Pitt also smoked pot together during filming. The free-spirited, slightly chaotic atmosphere of the bar scene wasn't acting. It was fueled by real booze and weed, giving the moment a natural energy that translated directly to the screen. Fact 12. Ridley Scott pulled a dangerous prank on actor Marco St. John, who played the sleazy truck driver. In the script, his character's fuel tanker explodes in a massive fireball. St. John insisted on being there for the explosion, wanting to see it up close. Scott told him the detonation would happen on the cue, ready, steady, go. But Scott triggered it on steady instead of go. The result was a completely genuine reaction of panic from the actor. His scramble and shocked expression on screen weren't staged. They were real. Scott admitted later he did it deliberately to capture an authentic reaction, and the gamble worked. Fact 13. The Thunderbird convertible became an icon in its own right. Ridley Scott purchased a fleet of identical 1966 Thunderbirds for filming, each customized for different uses. Some were built for close-ups, others modified for stunts, and a few prepared for the final cliff jump. One car even caught fire and was destroyed during production. For the ending, multiple Thunderbirds were sent over the canyon. After filming wrapped, Scott gave the surviving cars to his sons, except for one that ended up in a museum. Susan Sarandon later joked that she and Gina Davis should have gotten a car each, since they were the ones who made them legendary. Fact 14. The ending almost changed dramatically. At one point, Ridley Scott considered a version where Louise pushes Thelma out of the car at the last second, sacrificing herself so Thelma could live. He even mentioned the idea to Susan Sarandon, but Callie Khouri fought to keep her original ending, which was about solidarity, not survival. She believed the two women had to go out together, united in their decision. That final freeze frame of the Thunderbird midair became one of the most famous endings in cinema history. It was shocking, tragic, and strangely liberating all at once, which is why it's still remembered decades later. Fact 15. Susan Sarandon added an unscripted touch to that ending. Right before the car launches off the cliff, she grabbed Gina Davis and kissed her. It wasn't written in the script, but Sarandon felt it was the right emotional note. She told Scott she was going to do it, and he agreed. They rolled cameras, and in one take it became immortal. That kiss added an extra layer of intimacy and finality to their goodbye. It gave the scene even more power, turning the ending from tragic to transcendent. Without it, the finale wouldn't have hit nearly as hard. Fact 16. Believe it or not, a sequel was once pitched. The idea was bizarre. Thelma and Louise would return as ghosts to help women in abusive relationships. Susan Sarandon called the idea ridiculous, and her partner Tim Robbins told her not to overthink it, joking that she'd be getting a big paycheck. Thankfully, the idea was scrapped because it would have undermined the original film's impact. The story of Thelma and Louise worked because it was final, definitive, and uncompromising. A ghostly sequel would have turned a groundbreaking tragedy into campy nonsense. Some ideas are best left on the cutting room floor. Fact 17. Award season was historic for Thelma and Louise. Both Gina Davis and Susan Sarandon were nominated for Best Actress at the Oscars. Usually, a studio pushes one actor into the supporting category to avoid splitting votes, but here both were recognized as true leads. Neither won. The award went to Jodie Foster for Silence of the Lambs. But it was still rare and significant. It underscored that this was not one woman's story with a sidekick. It was the story of two equals. That double nomination became part of the film's legacy, showing Hollywood that audiences would embrace a story led by two women with equal weight. Fact 18. Not everyone embraced the film right away. Some critics accused it of being male-bashing. One even called it neo-fascist, claiming it glorified vigilante violence and suicide. Susan Sarandon later admitted she was shocked by the backlash, saying she underestimated how threatened some men would feel. But the controversy actually fueled publicity. The film made the cover of Time magazine and sparked nationwide debates about feminism, violence, and gender roles. It wasn't just a movie anymore. It was a cultural event dividing audiences and forcing conversations that Hollywood usually avoided. Fact 19. Thelma and Louise immediately entered pop culture. The final freeze frame of the Thunderbird midair has been parodied on The Simpsons, referenced in music videos, and even echoed by Taylor Swift in her work. The phrase Thelma and Louise itself became shorthand for two women embarking on a rebellious adventure. Even people who had never seen the film understood the reference. The imagery transcended the movie, turning into a cultural symbol of female rebellion and friendship. That's the sign of true impact. When your title alone becomes part of the language. Fact 20. The legacy of Thelma and Louise is still felt today. Gina Davis has said that women constantly approach her to share how much the film meant to them. The experience even inspired her to create an institute dedicated to studying gender representation in media. Susan Sarandon has said she knew the film had power when audiences were either thrilled or furious. That's what art should do. Challenge perspectives and spark conversation. Thelma and Louise didn't just entertain audiences. It changed how Hollywood thought about women in film. Its influence is still visible decades later, proving its place as one of the most important action dramas ever made. And those were 20 weird facts you didn't know about Thelma and Louise, a movie born from a first-time writer's anger, fought over by Hollywood royalty, nearly derailed by casting chaos, and ultimately remembered for one of the most iconic endings of all time. If you enjoyed this breakdown, subscribe to Pure Action Films for more explosive facts about the greatest and strangest action movies ever made.